Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first event of 2021. We are so excited to have you all here to join us for this amazing event and to get to know some other Latinas in tech. So, welcome to Personal Branding and Finding Your Voice. My name is Peglas, and I'm one of the members of the leadership team of Latinas in Tech Canada. So I'm based in Ottawa. I see that we have a whole bunch of people from all over the world here, so definitely let us know in the chat where you're from. We're just giving a couple minutes for everyone to join the room, but please put your questions in the Q&A box as we go, and we will have, we'll be taking questions as we go along with the presentation. So I'll introduce our leadership team. This is the leadership team for Latinas in Tech Canada. So all of us are based in Canada, and we have Diana Archila, our committee leader, Estefania, who is our communications lead, Jael, who is our events lead and who is instrumental in putting today together, Maria Susana, who is our partnership lead, and myself, who you can find on social media at Latinas in Tech Canada. So definitely check us out on Instagram. So we are here today because of Latinas in Tech, which is a larger organization with chapters all over the world. And the mission is to create a network community of Latina women that support each other and exchange ideas and initiatives. We want to empower Latina women to become active participants and leaders in the Canadian tech space, but Latinas in Tech as a whole is empowering Latina women to get involved with tech around the world. And today we have a very special guest. So we have Dana Doswell, who is currently the VP of Business Development for Sundevs. So Sundevs is a digital transformation company based in Colombia. And Dana also happens to be the owner of Dozy Incorporated, which is a resource for Latinos and Latinas working in North America. So she previously started and grew her own digital marketing agency in Toronto, where she helped financial and legal organizations develop integrated digital strategies that range from effective communication to CRM implementations. Big word. During this time, she began learning Spanish as a hobby, and she spent over 8 months living in different parts of Latin America to better understand the cultural differences between these parts of the world. Inspired by what she learned, she started Dozy Inc. to train ambitious Latinx people how to grow their careers in North America. This resulted in this incredible offer to join the Sundevs team and for Dana to take all that she learned and apply it in a new and more challenging environment. So Dana speaks fluent Spanish, loves lifting weights, and is slightly obsessed with Colombian coffee, which is great because she's actually in Colombia right now. Welcome, Dana. We're so excited to have you here, and I'll let you take the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction. I am going to share my screen, and we can get started. Also, really good job with the word implementation. Sometimes I struggle with that one too. Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we're going to be diving into personal branding and finding your voice. So I'm going to do things a little bit differently, and I take a really holistic approach to not only business, but also life, which sounds a little philosophical right now, but you'll see what I mean as we get into it. So I do speak Spanish. So if you do have any questions that you'd prefer to ask in Spanish, you can do that, or you can ask them in English. So I know we had a little bit of an introduction, but I also wanted to give you a little bit more of a broad perspective of who I am. So I'm definitely very career oriented. I'm in my second week of being the Vice President of Business Development for Sundevs. So I'm responsible for being kind of the bridge between the North American culture as well as the Latin American culture. So every single day I'm working in Spanish, but I'm selling in English. So this has already been a really interesting challenge in the last 2 weeks, and has kind of taken my knowledge to the next level about understanding the differences between Latin America and North America. And besides that, I'm from Newmarket, Ontario, which is really close to Toronto. So if you're in the States, I would probably just tell you that I'm from Toronto. Currently, I've traveled to 17 countries and counting. I'm really obsessed with Harry Potter. So if anybody ever wants to do Harry Potter trivia, I'll probably beat you, but it would still be really fun. And as Pegla said, I love lifting weights. I love Colombian coffee. And I'm so happy to be here today because I also really believe in empowering women and specifically empowering Latinas in tech. So this is a little bit of a timeline, which I wanted to share with you guys of how I arrived to be here tonight talking with you. So kind of starting in 2017, started learning Spanish. I'd actually met two guys from Argentina when I was traveling in Europe a couple years before that. Went to go visit them and also ended up living in between Argentina and Mexico for about 3 months. I met a guy who owned a cafe in Mexico, wanted to launch his business and bring his cafe into the United States. And he spoke English, but he didn't speak business English. And I just happened to be working in his cafe and he asked me how to say something. I think it was like a word about manufacturing, and I ended up sitting with him for about 2 hours, talking him through the process of the right words to use in English, but also the differences culturally, because as probably a lot of you have experienced, in North America, we're very direct and there's so many little differences when it comes to doing business, but they can really make or break your career and really make or break the relationships that you develop. So as I was sitting there in this cafe, I got this idea for Dawsey because I was like, it's not just tutoring English, it's kind of more than that. So I tried a bunch of different things. A lot of them didn't work. Eventually something stuck and I ended up partnering with Pro Colombia, which is a part of the Colombian government that's responsible for helping Colombian companies be successful abroad. So I did a webinar for them last year and they had over 240 companies connect, which was one of their most successful webinars ever. And it was about developing a powerful brand and a powerful message for the North American market. So this gave me a lot of other ideas and I ended up running a course called The Business of Communication last year twice, which was targeted at people that are currently working inside North American companies and helping them grow their career, develop their personal brand, and really bridge that gap culturally when it comes to doing business in North America. After that, I launched a community called iLevelUp, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. And then through doing all this work, I met the CEO of a company called Sundevs who took a couple of courses and did some one-on-one stuff with me. And he offered me a job last year. I said yes. I came to Colombia about a month ago and I'm currently living in Colombia and planning on staying here for the next couple of months. So this is just a really brief timeline. There's a lot more things that went into this, but that's why I'm sitting here tonight, ready to talk to you all about personal branding. And I've seriously learned a lot and I love sharing. So let's dive into it. So the purpose of this workshop is to help you build the foundation of your personal brand, as well as empower you to start using it to actually make career moves. So we're going to go over 3 main steps or 3 main parts in this workshop. The first one is we're going to talk about developing a lifelong personal brand, which is a little bit different than probably what you've seen in the market right now. We're going to go through the 6 steps to developing this personal brand. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about industry contribution and how to create content to market yourself. I like to be really interactive. So you can use the question box, but you can also just make comments, talk to me, talk to each other in the chat. I prefer having kind of dynamic questions as we go so that it stays fresh in your mind. So what I'm going to do right now is I've actually created a worksheet that you can use to follow along. And I'm going to share it with you. Oh no. Share it with you here. So this gives you, that's not what I wanted to do. 1 second. Copy link. Okay. So if you go into this link, you'll see that there is the worksheet for developing a lifelong brand. So you can either follow along in that worksheet and actually do the exercises as we go through, or you can save it for later and you can just kind of pay attention. So what I would suggest is copy the content that's in the worksheet and then create your own Word doc or Google Doc. And then that way not everybody's putting their answers in that one sheet. What you'll also notice is there's one other resource that I popped in there. It's a handbook that we created. So it's about business idioms. So if English is your second language, it breaks down the most common business idioms, examples of what it would be in Spanish, examples of how to use it in English. So just something additional for you guys to take a look at there. So let's dive in. So what I want to start off with is talking about the difference between a lifelong brand versus marketing yourself, because I'm sure a lot of you have seen, especially if you're active on LinkedIn, is share the link for the document. Yes. So if you actually click on, thank you, Kyle. So lifelong brand versus marketing yourself. Right now, there's so many courses popping up and I have so many friends that I told like, hey, go get on LinkedIn. It's a great career opportunity. And next thing I know, they're like selling LinkedIn courses about personal branding. So one of the key takeaways that I want everybody to realize is that just creating content is not personal branding. It goes so much deeper than that. And right now what's happening in the market is there's so many courses just about content marketing, and that's kind of being deemed as personal branding. But the issue with that is that content marketing is always based on your current knowledge level. And because we're all here tonight, we all want to grow our careers. I will assume that in 2 weeks, in 2 months, and in a year from now, we're all going to gain a lot more knowledge and expertise in our specific field and industry. This means that the content we create and the value proposition that we have changes. And so if we don't have a really strong foundation of our personal brand, then we're going to kind of be all over the place, and we're not going to be consistent with our messaging, which is really, really important in order to gain trust with new clients or with colleagues, with a superior, anything like that. So this is why producing content does not equal your personal brand. It's just a way of marketing yourself, which is really important, but it's not the whole thing. So personal brand goes a lot deeper, and it takes into consideration who you are as a person. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story of how I got my job at Sundevs to prove it. So there was a point about a year-ish ago, and I was going really hard on LinkedIn, and it was awesome. I was learning a lot. I was learning how to produce content, and it was great. And through doing this, I randomly connected with a developer that works at Sundevs. He saw my profile, and he reached out to his CEO saying, hey, I think that this girl can help us. So I ended up talking with the CEO. We didn't end up working together at that point, but a couple months later, I launched a course, and he decided to take this course with me. Now, after the course, he made me a job offer, and I said no. I was like, I'm never going to work for anybody again. I always want to own my own company, and I just really don't want to work for somebody. So he said, okay, let me hire you to do some consulting. So we started to work together on a consulting basis, and through understanding and learning the type of person that he was, it completely changed my mind. And he actually made me a second job offer later last year, which I accepted. And the reason that I accepted this was because of his personal brand. He was somebody that I trusted, that I aligned with, that I wanted to work with, and that I wanted to grow my career with. And so for me, that was really interesting, because that was kind of one of my first light bulb moments of, okay, a personal brand is not just producing content. It's actually who this person is, the way they make me feel, the reputation that they have with other people in their network. And so I ended up saying yes. So this was interesting because I marketed myself and got the introduction, but then he is not a marketer. He's a tech guy. He does not like being in public. And he made me a job offer, and I accepted because of his personal brand. And so what this really shows us is that your personal brand is your reputation, and your reputation is how you make other people feel based on how you influence them. And this is why we're all in the referral business. So even if you're not in sales, when you get a referral, this can be a job offer. This could be asking to be on a panel. It could be coming on a webinar, anything like that. These are all referrals based on the reputation that you have and the feeling that you create in someone else's brain. So this is a really key foundational component of creating your personal brand, is really understanding it goes just beyond, what you post on LinkedIn. It's actually who you are as a person. So how do we actually move forward and start building a lifelong personal brand in the real world? So these are the 6 steps, and I have them separated because one side of it, or the first part, is your personal branding foundation. And what characterizes this part is that these are changes, if they even happen, that are extremely slow, or these are characteristics or values that you have that are mostly permanent. This is the part that most current personal branding trainings and courses, they don't really talk about this stuff. Now, the second part, which is using your personal brand to market yourself, this is what we're seeing a lot on LinkedIn and just in the market in general. This changes as your career progresses, because let's say, for example, right now, you are really, really heavily on the technical side, and you don't really have that much interaction with sales, marketing, or business strategy. But let's say in the future, you want to start moving more towards that side and kind of be an in-between between the tech side and the strategy side. Your message is going to change. The value that you provide is going to change. How you communicate has to change. And so this part is not permanent. It's actually temporary. And so that's why it's important to have both sides, or both components of the personal brand, but it's really important to make sure that we build this foundation first. And that's what we're going to do. So what I also really like to communicate here is that when you only focus on steps 4 to 6, you will achieve short-term results. And this is really, I find this is really, really beneficial for salespeople, or salespeople tend to see the best results going really hard at content in the short term. But what can happen, and this happened to me, is then I started to feel trapped that, oh, I don't have a personal brand if I'm not posting content or I'm not producing content. But then once I started learning more about it, I've now gone through 2 periods where I was producing an insane amount of content, and another time where I got so overwhelmed by the amount of business that I had that I just produced no content. And both times I had an insane amount of referrals coming in, which is a really unique learning opportunity for me. So this is what I want everybody here to start understanding, is that it's not just about producing content, it's about developing solid relationships that are aligned with who you are as a person, as well as the value that you can provide in a business setting. So let's dive into actually building your personal branding foundation. So this is exercise number 1 in the worksheet. So again, you can start doing this. I like to do a little bit of work live so that if you have questions, I can answer them. So step number 1 is building your personal values. And the reason why this is important is because this gives us a principle-based way of saying yes or no to opportunities that come into our lives. And this goes both professionally as well as personally. And the reason why I say principle-based is because right now there's so many productivity hacks and all of these different courses and tools and techniques that you can use. But at the end of the day, that tends to stress us out. Like if you want to have like a 6-step framework to making a decision every single time, or you can just simply figure out the things that actually matter to you on a foundational level. And the more you start using these values as a decision-making criteria, they're aligned with you, and you no longer have to go through decision-making criteria when you're evaluating a new opportunity. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 minutes. So it is 5:50 right now. So at 5:52, 5:53, I'm going to start speaking again, but I want you guys to take 2 minutes right now, list 10 values that deeply resonate with you. And then I want you to whittle that list down to 3 to 5 strong core values. And just to show you, these are my top 5 personal values: leadership, connection, growth, health, and inner harmony. Let's see. Where can you find the worksheet? Hayal, can you share? Oh, thank you. Awesome. Okay, so everybody, let's take 2 minutes and I'll start speaking again around 5:53. Let's go. And any questions, comments that you have, pop them in the chat and I will respond to you guys immediately. And let me know if you want me to go to the next slide where I list my values, or if you would prefer for me to stay on this slide. Like the examples. All right. This is mainly for internalizing your personal brand. So this specific list, you can put it on your LinkedIn if you want to, but this is something that's going to be specifically for you. And if anybody wants to share like one of the first things that came to your mind, pop it in the chat. Like if leadership really resonated with you, if like honesty really resonated with you, for example, what else? I think connection is a really important one. Caring, leadership, and integrity, honesty and connection. Transparency is interesting. I like that one. Empathy, for sure. It's interesting because I think everybody that's here tonight wants to be a leader. If you're, I mean, we're all leaders in a sense, but really, grow our careers to be in a leadership position. And Mariana, to answer your question, your personal values do not have to be something you're good at. This is something you want to embody. So you're like, you would be proud of yourself if you were a person that had these values. Yeah, I was saying, so like honesty and transparency in these things are so important because that's actually being vulnerable, and that's how you build connection and have a team that trusts you when you're in a leadership position. Vitality, I love that. One of my words, one of my just guiding words in life in general is vibrancy. And I feel like vibrancy and vitality really go together. Wow, I love these answers. Okay, keep thinking and brainstorming. I love it. We're gonna move on to the next one. But you guys have this worksheet so you can come back to it. So step number 2 is community criteria. Now, you can do this both on a professional as well as a personal level. So I've actually done this exercise to figure out the types of colleagues or business relationships that I want to have, as well as the type of friends that I have, like friend that I want to go grab a coffee with. So the reason why this is so important is because everything in life is relationships, just like everything in life comes back to like empathy and honesty and transparency. Those are all the fundamental building blocks of developing a good relationship. But often we're not that intentional when it comes to relationship development in the workplace, because people think that networking with anybody and everybody is great. And another example is that even if somebody is like an amazing influencer in your industry, but maybe they're an asshole and you maybe actually don't want to be friends with them, and that's okay. There's going to be so many people in your industry that seem like a good contact, but when you get to know them, they're not actually somebody that align with you. So that's what this second exercise is for, is to intentionally develop relationships in a business environment with people that you can actually trust. So what you're going to do in the worksheet, there's 3 columns, is you're going to list a couple qualities you're looking for in friends. So for me, for example, I don't really like drinking that much. I like wine and beer, but I don't really like getting drunk. And that can seem like not a lot of fun for some people, but for the people I'm aligned with, that's something I'm looking for. Other than that, I really like eating healthy. I like languages. I like traveling. I like ambitious people. Qualities that I'm not looking for are people that drink a lot, people that are not active. So I actually listed those things. And then in the third column is the qualities you need to embody to attract the people you want. Because often, and we all know this, we act based on what other people want us to do. And so as soon as we start thinking about the people we actually want to be around, automatically we're going to start acting in a way that's more aligned with who we actually want to be. So let's take another 2 minutes. It's 5:55. So at 5:57, I'm going to, wait, did it just turn? No. At 5:57, I'm going to come back and start talking again. So let's get to it. Start filling out those columns. Maybe right now, because we just have 2 minutes, is just post 1 or 2 things in each column for yourself. And again, any questions, just pop them in the chat. And this one might be a little personal, but if anybody feels comfortable sharing the qualities you're looking for, even the qualities that you're not looking for, pop them in the chat too. It's always interesting to see. Looking for constant growth, vision, ambitious, kindness, honesty. I love that. Hayal, can you share the link to the drive again for Jennifer, please? Qualities not looking for was victim mindset. I saw that. Genuine, optimistic, honest, kind, fun. Other things that you can include in this too is like actual activities that people like doing. So for me, I don't like drinking a lot, but I love food. And I honestly really love Colombian food, and being here and not being able to go out that much is really difficult. Nature lovers, things like that. So for me, like I would love to have a really intimate dinner with 2 people that I really expect and just eat food for 3 hours and sit in a nice restaurant. I also love getting up really, really early and going hiking. There you go. Stephanie and Peglas, you guys can be friends. I love it. Ability to hold deep conversation, appreciation of art. Exactly. Okay, 5:57. So we're going to move on to the next one. But I really encourage you guys, give this one a lot of thought. And it's pretty eye-opening, honestly, because what you'll start to do is you'll be like, okay, these are the actual people I have in my life. 80% of them, like they're actually the people I want to be with. And then you look at other 20% and you're just like, wow, I didn't really have this awareness before. So this has been really effective for me. Okay, step number 3 is your natural talent. This is how you naturally kick ass. So I'm going to give you a really tangible example. Something I'm really good at is presenting, which is why I'm here right now. So a really big part of the way that I contribute to my industry and market myself, which we're going to get to, is through video creation, doing presentations, workshops, and things like that, because I'm good at doing it and I enjoy doing it. And the reason why this is important is because we all have these natural tendencies. Some of us are really good writers. Some of us are amazing at giving inspirational speeches, even lifting weights. It doesn't necessarily need to be specifically related to business, but creating this list of 5 to 10 things that you're good at, again, will allow you to start to see opportunities that arise that are a good fit for you and give you the opportunity to showcase your natural talent. These are also ways that you'll feel more comfortable communicating your value and just putting yourself out there because you're going to trust yourself to do a good job. So let's just take 2 minutes again here. So 5:59 at 6:01, we will come back and I'll start talking again. And please, I would love for everybody to share at least one thing that they're good at in the chat. I love the answers to these. Training. Maria, what kind of training? Connecting with people, being resourceful. Love it. Work-related trainings. Nice. I like that. And I know so many, like everybody here is involved in technology. So if we do want to think of some business-related things, meditation, I love it. Oh, mediation. Sorry, I thought you said meditation, Ariana. Yeah, everybody here has tech-related skills as well. And I'm sure there's a ton of people that here that have certifications. Creative, you're a designer. I love it. Organization, brand positioning and strategy, making connections, thinking outside the box, coding, organizing workflows. And the other thing that you can start to think of is, for example, if you are a PMP, so you have your project management certification, that is such a transferable skill. Dealing with groups of human beings and coordinating them towards one goal, I really believe is one of the hardest things to do on this planet. So that is a skill that translates outside of the workplace. You want to organize your group of friends to go and do something. Cool. Maybe something that you can start doing on a personal side is developing some really cool events, like finding a friend that's like really creative or does art and doing some type of like art event with your friend, and you're the one organizing it and managing everybody, making sure they're getting there. Okay, this is really good. How do you pronounce your name? Kauris? I'm so sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Struggling to say what you're good at is really, it's such a common problem. And I also find it's a really common problem with women. So I think a way that you can kind of get around this, ask 2 people that are really close to you what they think that you're good at. What that will do is it'll give you a little bit more permission to be like, okay, first I do get some of this external validation that I'm good at these things. And sometimes external validation is not what we're looking for, but sometimes that gives us a little bit of the confidence that we need to be like, yeah, I am good at that. And then you can start listing other things. Totally. Finding the humor in things is amazing. And again, that transfers to business. People are so serious in business all the time, and we do not need to be. I'm still Dana when I'm in a sales call, or I'm still Dana when I'm doing this presentation. Like I swear sometimes. I swore in this presentation. That's just how I am. Connecting with strangers. That's amazing. That is such a talent. That's good emotional intelligence. Okay. I love this. So I know I said 5 to 10 things, but I love all the things that you guys are putting in here. So if you want to, go at it, list 30 things that you're good at. And then what you can do is you can start to highlight some of the things that are similar and kind of shorten your list a little bit that way by finding things that are similar. Okay, we're going to continue on to the next part. So what we've done right now is we've created the foundation of your personal brand. So if we think about what we just did, personal values, identifying the type of people that we want to be around, what this allows us to do is to really be aligned with how we operate, as well as with the people that we bring into our circles. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and say, how can we leverage this to start marketing ourselves in our industry? So the first thing that we're going to do is develop your value proposition. To me, this is a question that takes a really, really long time to answer because there's actually 4 micro questions to this. But remember that your value proposition is the current value that you can provide to your organization or clients, kind of depending on what role that you're in. And the reason why I really stress current value is because, again, we can be in an entry-level position. We can be super motivated and passionate, but we're in an entry-level position. We don't have a lot of experience. And so the value that we're going to bring is going to be that, we're open to do whatever needs to be done in order to learn. That's very different than somebody that's in a senior management position or a director level position that is interacting with clients, that has a budget that they are responsible for using in their organization. So in your worksheet, what you're going to do is you're going to answer 4 key questions. And the first one is, who do you provide value for? So generally speaking, we all have many stakeholders. So you're going to have clients, you're going to have, if you're in a B2C company, any single person that buys the end product that you're working on is technically a stakeholder. But for the purposes of this exercise, I really want you to think about, is it, your boss, like the internal stakeholder at your company that is really who you're working for and helping to support their mission inside the organization. If you are somebody that's in a sales role, then here I really want you to focus on your customer persona or that end audience that you're selling to. So that's question number 1. 2 is what value you provide. A really common mistake here is people answer this question by saying what they do or how they do it. But what we really want to focus on here is the business outcome. So let's say, for example, if you're in sales, then you can help drive revenue. So you help people increase revenue by 12%. That's a business outcome. For designers, what role does creativity have in the impact of content? What role does creativity have in the use of a digital product? If we're talking about like a UX designer, for example. So really think about when you are creating your work or when you're working every single day, what does that allow your business to do? So what, if you did not exist and you were not doing that work, what would happen? And then when you are and you're doing that work, what specific change are you creating in that organization? So that's the business outcome, what actually changes in the business as a result of you working there and producing your work. Then how do you provide this value? So if you're in sales and you're selling a technology product, your how is your technology product. So we help you increase sales by 12%. Oh, how do you do that? Well, we have a automated sales prospecting software that has, like a proprietary AI algorithm that allows you to understand buyer intent just by the words being used in the response email. Okay, that's really interesting. Or if you are in a service-based business, then it's probably a combination of your unique skills and your unique expertise, or it's a process that you've created based on your experience. So what I want you to do is here, I want you to think of that process or that how do you deliver that value? How do you deliver that work? And then lastly, which is the most difficult question, is why do you do what you do? As human beings, we really bond with other people, and trust is created through vulnerability and emotions. And so when we're talking about personal branding and we're talking about marketing ourselves, having a really strong why am I doing what I'm doing? And for an example, the reason why I'm actually doing what I'm doing is because I believe that communication is the most powerful personal and professional development tool that any human being has. So I'm talking about communication. I'm in a sales role. I'm also the owner of Dazi. I have a company. So a really powerful why starts with the words, I believe that. So just to keep that in mind. So we're going to spend 2 minutes now. I just want you guys to jot down a couple of ideas. So around 6:09, I'm going to start talking again. Again, any questions, pop them in the chat. I also saw there was, for some reason, I can't open the Q&A box. So if anybody, there's like 2 questions in the Q&A box. So if you could post them in the chat, that would be awesome if they are questions for me. And at 6:09, I'm going to start talking again, but just jot down a couple ideas that you have for who you're providing value for, what, how, and why. Okay, how can I sell or provide value when interviewing after being 2+ years unemployed? Okay, this is such an amazing question. Being unemployed does not mean that you cannot add value. We're also in the middle of a pandemic, so just jobs are scarce just in general. So this is a really good question. So when you are unemployed, what I would suggest that you do is to create some type of consistent piece of content that is some type of commentary or reflection of your learning process in your industry. So when you go into an interview, let's say you've been writing a blog for even the past couple of weeks about your industry, you've been learning, you've been producing, you've been contributing to your industry. So when you get to that interview, you can say, with the time that I was unemployed, I really took this opportunity to become even more of an expert in my industry. That would be my advice, because you can always add value, always. Okay, I'm changing careers and unemployed at the moment. There are a lot of people I can provide value for. Totally. I love this combination of communication and art, 100%. And specifically, being in this pandemic and having almost all communication digital means that content creation and visual communication has become that much more important to communicating your value and just connecting with other people. Awesome. Okay, it's 6:09, so I'm going to move on. Anybody have any last questions about this before I move on to the next step? How do you speak clearly and concisely? Okay, question. Stephanie, is English your second language? I'm just curious. Yes, okay. So this is actually really important because in English and in North America, people really value being concise, direct, and really summarizing things. And you even see this if you ever have a direct translation of English next to Spanish, almost always Spanish is longer. This was also really difficult for me because I was just like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm explaining things so much. And then people would tell me that I'm not explaining things well enough. So yes, exactly. So being concise in English when it is not your first language, and specifically when Spanish is your first language, is practice. And one of the things that you can do is you can actually use this framework right here for your value proposition to practice. So what I would say for you to do is think about, I'll write this in the chat as a little exercise. So think about 5 common situations you're in, business and personal, where you're communicating ideas. Now what I want you to do is I'm going to say, what is the outcome I want to create? What's the outcome that you want to create from this communication? How do I want to create it and with who? Why do I want to create it? This is actually a communication formula that will allow you to be very direct, effective, and concise. And if you can practice this both in social situations as well as in business situations, what you'll start to do is you're going to start to train your brain to be in a situation and say, okay, the end goal is to, create an amazing dinner experience with all of my friends. Hey guys, do you want to have a really cool dinner experience next Friday at 5 p.m. with the 6 of us? I think it would be a great way for us to all reconnect after the pandemic. Done. That's how you invite friends in English. There you go. And Alexa, I'm going to download this deck and I'm going to put it in the link that was shared that has the worksheet so that you can access all of the content from today. Any other questions? How would you sell yourself to the tech environment by coming from the service industry? Oh my God. Okay. So I worked in the service industry for so long. And when you're in a restaurant or a hotel environment, you really learn 2 main skills in my opinion. Number 1 is dealing with such a wide variety of people. And specifically, well, in the US and in Canada, the tech scene is getting more and more diverse, specifically if you're really on the tech side. And so number 1, your ability to deal with people from different backgrounds, and not only deal with them, but actually create a really welcoming and inviting environment is an amazing skill to have. Number 2 is high pressure situations when you're working with a team of people that all have different responsibilities and you're serving an end customer. So when you're talking about translating that, What you really want to do is you want to focus on the emotional intelligence that you bring to the workforce, and then talk about your willingness to invest in developing the technical skills that you might need to do in order to get up to par. Okay, awesome. We are going to move on to the next one. And also a pro tip, so if you go through and you answer all of those questions in one sentence, then you can expand these answers, put it all together, and this now forms your LinkedIn bio. So this is like a story of all the value that you provide. What you can also do is those answers are actually answers that you can use in a networking setting. So when somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, what do you do? Well, actually, I work in this organization for this person, and I help them accomplish these things. And then the person will ask you, oh, like, how do you do that? Well, I do that because I have this education background. Oh, cool. Like, what got you into that? And you're like, well, I believe that like Instacart is the best way to deliver healthy groceries to people in Canada. I know Deanna works there, so that came to my mind. So that gives you kind of a formula that you can also use in networking events, which is also really useful if you're networking in English and it's your second language. Okay, so step number 5 is choose your communication style. This is probably the easiest step. Your communication style is a reflection of your personality. And kind of a note here is that this should remain consistent across Slack messages all the way to LinkedIn or Instagram content. And so exercise number 5 in your worksheet is just to pick 3 words that describe your communication style. So for me, for example, I want to be inspiring, practical, and oh my gosh, I just forgot my last, and consistent. So those are the three like words and emotions that I want to transmit through my communication style. So for me, for example, I don't really use exclamation points. I think that they often remove the seriousness of, or the value of sentences, and I very rarely use them. And that's part of the practicality. But then also whenever I'm communicating, I want to inspire people. And so I always make sure that the words that I'm using are not negative, that they're positive. I'm always making sure that the way I'm communicating with people is very clear so that they feel empowered and inspired to go and do something. So 6:15 right now. Let's just spend like 1-2 minutes. Think of a couple words that you feel really describe your personality and the way that you want to communicate. While you guys do that, I'm going to turn my light on because it just got really dark here. So I'll be right back. Okay. Practical, insightful, fact-checked, and clear. I like that. Being silly and funny is not unprofessional, and using emojis is not unprofessional. What I will encourage you to do is before using emojis or being really silly, just think about who you're communicating with. Because although we want our messaging to stay consistent, for example, I sell to CTOs, and in my experience, the last couple CTOs that I've talked to are so practical and direct that being silly with them, like it just feels super awkward. So just, making sure that you think of the audience that you're communicating with, but in general, I think it's totally fine. Inspiring, assertive, clear. Well, everybody's saying clear. I like that. Casual, empowering, and educational. I like that one because that's not only a way of communicating, it's also kind of the type of communication. Educational. Refreshing. Totally, Carolina. I think that refreshing, when a lot of people think of that, they think of vulnerability. And, like you see on LinkedIn now, like there's a lot of people that share really, really personal stories. And so that can be considered refreshing. Like I've seen people share that they had an alcohol problem, and then other people commenting saying, thank you so much. It's so refreshing to see somebody being so honest and vulnerable, and this really helped me. Direct, clear, curious, concise, warm, authentic, relatable, professional, honest. I love it. Okay, awesome. We're going to move on to the last step, which is industry contribution. So this one is also going to be, it's going to take you a little bit longer. How you contribute to your industry is the bread and butter of marketing yourself. And the reason why I think of this as industry contribution is because, again, human beings, one of the most fundamental states that we need to be in is reciprocity. So if I do something for you, if I add value for you, you're going to want to reciprocate and add value or help me out. Often when we think of marketing, we think we're selfish. how can I get my message in front of as many people as possible? But when we flip the script and we think industry contribution, I'm thinking, how can I positively contribute to my industry, the people in it? And by doing so in a public manner, we're actually marketing ourselves, but we're doing it in a way that's really helpful to other people and is going to actually progress your career a lot more quickly and in a much more enjoyable way. How can you slow down if you work too fast? Do you mean like, sorry, I don't really understand the question. If you work too fast in general, like in your job? Can you specify the question a little bit more, please? So when we're talking about industry contribution, there's two main things that I always like to start people off with. There's the content creation side, but then there's also the relationship development with specific organizations. Question clear? To speak, how can you slow down if you speak too fast? Okay, I speak quite fast in English. What I do, it all comes down to being intentional. If you know that you're going to be speaking in front of people or you just speak a lot in your job, start to have little cues that you can bring into your day-to-day. So if you're about to go into a meeting, right before you go in, okay, deep breath. Breathing is your friend. Seriously, like you can take breaths in between saying sentences. It seems like a really long time for you, but it's actually a very normal amount of time for everybody else. So number one, I would say start bringing some cues into your day-to-day to start practicing and reminding yourself to slow down as you're talking. And then the second one is when you're actually talking, use your breath to help slow yourself down because you cannot talk when you're in the middle of breathing. So those would be my two tips. Okay, so exercise number 6 is really focusing on this marketing aspect. So the first thing is identifying the channels you want to be present on. LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, email marketing, whatever it is that you want to do. Step number 2 is identify the organizations you want to be involved in and how you want to support them. Number 3, identify the type of content that you will produce. So by type of content, I mean, are you going to do blogs? And this kind of goes back to, what do you kick ass at? What are you good at? So do you want to do videos? Okay, then maybe YouTube's a good channel for you. Do you want to do text-based things? Twitter could be really interesting for you. Do you really like being creative with photos? Okay, Instagram might be good for you. And then step number 4 is commit to a content and support goal. So for me, for example, every single quarter, I'm trying to do 3 workshops like this that are free and that are partnering with organizations that I really believe in. So 3 of these workshops every single quarter. And then on the content side, I'm producing content on both LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So it's 6:20, so let's just take 2 minutes here. And I just kind of want you guys to jot down a couple of ideas for each of these steps. And yeah, let's get to it. Again, any questions, pop them in the chat. How can you find a mentor that will actually be productive and will hold you accountable? Really, really good question. 2 types of mentors, in my opinion. Mentors that you pay for, you know that they're going to be there and they're going to be accountable because you're paying for them. So that's one way to be like a lot more sure that you're going to have somebody that's holding you accountable. Number 2 is figure out somebody that you want to mentor you, create a criteria that to you represents a good mentor. What kind of role do you want them to actually play in your life? When you have identified somebody that you think could fit that, and you also have this criteria, figure out what value you can bring to that person. You need to sell yourself to them. So maybe they're in a VP position and you want them to mentor you. Maybe you could reach out and say, I know that I don't have a lot to offer you because I'm in an entry-level position and you're a VP, but I saw that you'd been kind of trying to post on LinkedIn recently. I'm looking for a mentor. I'd love to, for free, help support you with creating LinkedIn content. And, if we did that, then maybe we could have 2 calls a month. I actually already have, like an agenda put together. So when I'm talking about organizations, yes, this is in addition to your job. So for example, for me, I don't work at Latinas in Tech, but they're an organization that I'm now affiliated with and that I'm partnering with. Another organization I previously worked with is Hispanotech. Another one is Pro Colombia. Stephanie, what are some best practices to meet people online and build genuine rapport during these challenging times when everything is still so focused on the personal journey? Okay. Building genuine rapport online, I will say, is more difficult than in person, but the best thing that you can do is acknowledge that it's weird. As soon as you do that, it goes from seeming like you're trying to sell somebody something to just you being another human. And another thing that I really encourage everybody to do, like communities like this, Latinas in tech, this is a great way to meet people that are like-minded. And it's naturally, you know that you have something in common with them. Other things you can do is look at meetup.com. These used to be physical meetups, but you can actually create an account for free and start reaching out to people that were part of communities or meetups that were interesting to you. And so what you want to do is you always want to find that common point between you and that person and use that as the leverage or the content to reach out with. Something else that you can do, there's kind of two ways that you can use content. If you see somebody else is producing really valuable, awesome content, you can find something that you find valuable, read it thoroughly, and then reach out to that person and thank them. Everybody likes getting their ego stroked a little bit. So reaching out and saying like, Estefania, I saw the blog that you posted on how to create a personal brand. That really motivated me and I've already started. So I wanted to thank you and also see if you would be open to having a 20-minute call with me. I'd love to get your opinion on the work that I've done so far, which is a good tactic for both a mentor as well as just connecting with somebody. And then you can also use your own content. If you're the one creating the content, you could offer to share it with somebody. Hey, saw that you'd commented on this other post about personal branding and that you were interested in it. This is like a blog. It's totally free that I wrote. I thought it might be valuable to you if you want me to share it. Good question. Okay, so we're going to move on. So what you have done at this point is you have created your foundation. And now what you can do is you can use that foundation to market yourself, as well as make sure that the marketing that you're doing is attracting opportunities that are relevant to you and that are aligned with you. And now you have the foundation of your lifelong personal brand, and you have the step-by-step framework on how to continue building it and executing upon it. So if you enjoy this workshop, I would invite you to join me in the community that I have, which is called I Level Up. I Level Up is a resource that I'm creating for Latinos and Latinas that are growing their careers in North America. So this is based on all of my experience. And I actually have a partner who's an English professor who's also Mexican. And so every single month we do communication training, both on business communication as well as English, as well as business culture in North America so that you can continue growing your career. So this is every single month what we do. One workshop that's really similar to something like this. We have one live Q&A session. So this is, you can kind of bring any questions you want. And then you're going to also get access to mini courses and other free guides that we release that is just for the I Level Up community. It's about $17 Canadian per month, which is about $13 US for people that are in the US. And our next workshop is actually next Wednesday, and it's an extension of the workshop that we just did today that's really focused on the industry contribution side and actually how to create content, what type of content is good for you, and then how to create something that is actually manageable when you have a full-time job if you really want to market yourself. So I wanted to mention that. If you are interested, then you can reach out and email me, find me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any questions about this workshop, about the community that I have, or any other questions that you have about growing your career in North America. And thank you everybody for coming. That is all of the content that I have.
Thank you so much, Dana. That was amazing. I definitely am left with so much to think about, and I'm sure everyone else here was too. And so impressed with how you were able to use the chat to make this feel like a conversation. Super cool. As a facilitator, very impressed. So for, for everyone who is here, the party doesn't end now. We have a networking after party happening now. So we have been sharing the Zoom link that we're going to be using to connect for that. It's different than this one. So feel free to just jump straight into that. We're going to be doing 30 minutes of networking, just chatting a little bit about this experience with them, getting to know each other, and it's a great way to meet other Latinas in tech. So we invite you all to join us, and we hope to see you there. And for everyone who is not a member yet of Latinas in Tech, make sure to join. It's absolutely free. We'd love to have you. And Follow us on Instagram for the next event, Latinas in Tech Canada. So definitely give us a follow. We post lots of helpful tips on growing your career, self-care, and for Latinas in tech. So see you at the networking session. Dana's going to be there too, so it's a great opportunity to chat with her, meet other people in the and we're looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you, everybody. This was amazing.
Thanks, Dana.
Okay, see you all in the other link.